introduction. I'm really glad to be here in Vancouver and not only get a break from the really cold weather in Winnipeg, where I'm presently living, but also to be able to finally meet some of you who I've been talking to through emails for years and finally put some faces. So it's really nice to be here. Thank you for coming. So as Glenn said, my focus now really is farm animal welfare issues. That's what I do with Canadians for Ethical Treatment of Food Animals. But I'm a biologist. I've been through life science education when I was living in France. And because of that, I still really care about how students learn to become biologists or veterinarians or medical doctors, because I've been through the traditional curriculum that involves harming animals, and I like to be able to help people to learn through much more human methods. So when I'm talking about replacing the harmful use of animals, I just want to define harm to start with. With Internet, the definition we use is that harm comprises any action that impinges on an animal's current or future well-being by denying or limiting their freedom to live, but also their freedom to express their full natural behavior, their freedom to be part of a social structure and ecosystem, their freedom from hunger and thirst, from discomfort, from pain, injury and disease, and from fear and distress. So when you keep this definition in mind, you can see that in life science education, there's actually harm being done in about all the disciplines, from anatomy, where animals are purposely killed for dissections, to biochemistry, physiology or pharmacology, where live animals are experimented on, or body parts of animals purposely killed are used, and even for surgery when live animals are used. And this is not the only problem. Harming animals is one major concern, but there's also other concern with this traditional harmful use of animals. So one of them is that it actually creates a poor learning environment. And that's something I experienced myself during my studies, that in many cases you have structures on the animals that you dissect that are unclear, maybe because they haven't been preserved properly or for other reasons. And so the students who are supposed to learn anatomy, they actually don't see properly the structures. And also it's very easy to make a mistake when you cut into the animal, and if you do that, you can damage some structures, and then you don't see well what you're supposed to see. And typically there's no repeat. You have one animal and that's it. So you can have a pretty poor learning experience when you're doing dissection in a traditional way. There's also a lot of negative emotions that are associated with using animals in this way. Students react in many different ways in learning about life science by harming animals. Some students will withdraw, some students will try to avoid the experiment, others will try to accentuate the positive of the experience and make it extremely enjoyable. Other students will start using humor to cope with it, and it can even lead to some very disrespectful behavior of the students toward the animals that they are using as tools. And again, that's something that I've experienced myself during my education. And all this can lead to some desensitization. So students who learn that animals are not feeling beings that should be respected, but simply tools that can be used for whatever purpose. Another implication, negative implication of this harmful use of animals is the infringement of civil liberties. And some students who come from different religious background or different ethnical beliefs will have problems with harming animals. And in many cases, they have no alternatives, and they are told either to suck it up, basically, and do it, or they are told that they have no place in these disciplines, and if they can't do it, they just should go into another discipline. So it's definitely against civil liberties and against the many principles of religious freedoms and academic freedom. And finally, I think it's important to remember that it's a big loss to science to force students to go through this, because many people who are actually critical thinkers, who are sensitive to animals, who respect them, actually because they know that they don't have a choice, they just won't go into life sciences. And we are losing very valuable people who are really passionate about doing this, entering this type of professions in the life sciences, we just go somewhere else. And that's a concern in particular for women. A lot of women would like to go into the life sciences, and there's a gender imbalance because typically they just decide to not go into these professions. So for all these reasons, I think we need to look into replacing the harmful use of animals in life science education. So we can do that through the use of alternatives, which are educational aids or teaching approaches that replace harmful animal use or complement existing human education. And what's really good is that with all the technology we have now, we actually have alternatives available in any fields of life sciences so that we can achieve completely human education. So students in life science can learn all these fields with not harming animals at all, not participating in that. So that's our definition of fully human education. It's an education where the teaching objectives are met using human methods, where animals are free for harm, where compassion, empathy, respect for life, and critical thinking are encouraged, and students have freedom of conscience. So what I'm going to do in the next part of this talk is to tell you a bit about the different categories of alternatives that exist. There are 8 categories. And what I'm going to try to emphasize is just giving you some examples so that you can see that not only the range of alternatives that exist to replace the harmful use of animals is very broad, and they can fully replace what we are doing right now, but also that they can even achieve better education. So if you're a student enrolled in a course and you have to argue for alternatives with your teacher, or if you're an animal advocate and thinking of Stop UBC Animal Research Group advocates, I think it might help you to really understand the power of alternatives that we have access to now with all the technology, and be able to really argue that using alternatives to harmful animal use can really enhance the quality of students' education. So the first alternative that exists is film and videos, and these can be used very easily for teaching students anatomy. So by having dissections performed by trained professionals. But when I'm talking about that, I'm talking about dissection that would be performed on what we call ethically sourced cadavers. So these are cadavers obtained from animals who have died naturally, or who have died in accidents, or were euthanized for medical reasons. So they were not killed purposely for making the alternative. And another thing that we consider is the quality of life of these animals before they died. So for example, if you think of animals in a factory farm who would have died from disease, we would not consider that to be a human ethical alternative because of the life that they would have lived before being used in this way. If you're interested, we have a very comprehensive policy on what ethically sourced cadaver is, and I could give you the reference. Another very useful tool for teaching anatomy is the use of models. So you can see some plastinized model here that represent animals that are dissected, and in some cases you also have removal parts that really allow people to see how things are put together and better understand the functioning of the species that under study. And then for a lot of skills, I'm thinking particularly for surgeons and veterinarians, there are some simulators. So some can be very simple. For example, this is a patch that is supposed to mimic skin, and the student can learn suturing skills. So the advantage with that is that it's really easy to use, it's really cheap, and students can repeat over and over until they really master the skills and the coordination between their hands and their eyes. And then they can practice on things like this. This is a presentation of a hollow organ. It's quite different than suturing skin. And the technology just keeps making the alternative more and more complicated and more realistic. So for example, this one you have a system so that you can introduce fake blood, which makes the practice a bit more realistic. And that says how advanced it is. So these are fake skin, again, same thing, but much more close to what we would see. So I want to show you a small clip now to show you how these simulators can be extremely advanced and extremely realistic. So that's one type of alternative that I found, and you can see how it really mimics the anatomy and the different structures, and so you can cut into it, you can operate as you do on a real cadaver. And it really allows, again, students to practice. You can repair the organ, there are some exchangeable parts that you can replace. You can cut bones, so they're extremely realistic. It's so realistic, actually, yes, it generally grosses out the audience. And I think that's the worst. But I wanted to keep it because it's so realistic that it really shows the power of this alternative to really provide the quality of the education we are looking at. It's really to understand that yes, we can replace using animals. They are very realistic, very good alternatives, and we can spare animal lives and a lot of suffering and harm to animals by using this kind of simulators. I'm going to show you another one. So that's another type. This one is carried on someone's body. So here's the simulator on.
So now we have this tissue that's open here.
On a real person. So with fake organs in here.
Get in here and find whatever happens to be causing the injury. Ordinarily, we go ahead and place it. Of course, with the penetration. Penetration wound over here, and ordinarily we go ahead and place it. An advanced medical setting is we try and identify the spot. This is one of the views that we have about this actually being on a live person rather than a mannequin, because a mannequin doesn't do this. Whereas a real person, just try and start digging in and finding an arterial bleed, they will do this. And you have to learn to train and respond appropriately to that.
So basically it's the same kind of simulator than the one I just showed you before, but the advantage of this one is that it's carried by a real person. So when you want to practice trauma in situations where the people would be really hurt and move and scream, that really allows to have extremely realistic situations. We also have mannequins, and these are used really frequently for veterinary education all across the world. This one happens to be called Fluffy the cat. I didn't make the name. But it's extremely handy for students to practice many skills, basic skills of clinical skills. So for example, here some students are practicing intubation of a cat. And just to remind you how this technique can actually really spare animals from harm, the equivalent in traditional education would be universities keeping cats in cages, and regularly the cats would be taken from the cages anesthetized and used by the student who would repeatedly force some pipes down their windpipes. And that can cause bruises, that can cause bleeding. Some animals can even die as a result. So when you see that this is available, and there are many studies that shows that this type of alternative does the work as well, even better, because students can practice as many times as they need until they can really master the skill. I think this, again, is a very strong argument for using alternative methods. That's another type of simulator. It's used in Canada at Calgary Veterinary College. And so that's a mannequin that the same size than a cow, and it's for veterinarians to practice helping cows giving birth when things don't happen in the most easy way. So they can change the position of the legs of the calf or the way he would get out, and then practice helping the cows with this device. So that's used in Calgary. And actually, last year in Calgary, there was a big international meeting with veterinarians from all across the world called the Invest 2012 conference, where they were featuring a lot of mannequins and models like that are used in veterinary education. And I wanted to show you that because they feature this conference on their website, and they call this best teaching methods. So it's not just us saying these are the best teaching methods. It's starting to be really recognized around the world by professionals, by educators who are using these methods and realize that yes, it's much better learning for the students to do that than harming animals in a traditional way. This is an example of some mannequins that are a bit more high-tech. So this one is linked to a computer system, and that allows to give the mannequin a pulse, a heartbeat. You can even have the chest moving up and down, and some sounds. So again, it's realistic and help students practice different clinical skills and examination. And I wanted to give you this example. I don't know how many of you are familiar with trauma exercises training. It's actually quite horrible. It's typically a pig or a goat is used, and these animals are maimed in many ways. They can be shot, they can be burned, they can have limbs cut, and they die at the end of the exercise. And I found an alternative that is actually quite amazing, that can totally replace this kind of exercises. So I'm going to show you, it's a small clip from a TV station that was reporting on it, and it's quite impressive.